Oh, hi.
I'll be reviewing the 20 biggest differences I found between Stephen King's It, the novel, and the 1990s TV miniseries adaptation. These differences are only in the last half of the novel, because this is a companion video to my earlier differences video that covered the top 10 differences I found in the first half of the novel. So I'd recommend giving that a watch first. Also, I thought I'd try something a little different in this video, where I show you screenshots and clips instead of just filming me talking about the differences. Let me know what you think in the comments. Obviously, this is a list of spoilers, but this is your spoiler warning. The first difference I noticed, obviously, is more characterization, which is usually a good thing, but this novel does prove that sometimes it can be for the worst, which I'll get more into later. The second big difference I noticed is that there are interludes throughout the novel, all told from Mike's point of view, and in the third interlude, Mike interviews one of the spectators and shooters alive during the Bradley gang shootout, where a gang rolls up into town to purchase copious amounts of ammo, and the salesman doesn't have enough ammo, so he tells them to come back the next day when he's restocked. Well, the rest of the town catches wind and shows up with their guns. Pennywise, the clown, was also sighted at this shootout, and the gunman who saw Pennywise always saw him with the gun that they had brought to the shootout. This is just another chapter of violence in the town's bizarre, blood-soaked history. The third difference I noticed in the last half of the novel was that during the apocalyptic rock fight, Henry and friends have fireworks like M80s since the fight occurs on the 4th of July. The introduction of fireworks makes this confrontation much more dangerous than in the film, and the characters are injured more severely in the novel. There is also more reason provided for Henry and Mike on being enemies, such as Henry being influenced by his father to harbor disliking towards Mike's family. Henry even goes as far as to kill Mike's dog, which definitely gives him a grudge against Henry. The fourth difference I noticed was in a chapter called The Smoking Hole, where after reading about Native Americans using smoke to invoke visions, the kids decide they want to invoke visions to find the best way to fight it. So they fill their newly built underground clubhouse with branches and start a bonfire. Sitting through the smoke to induce visions, this miraculously manages to work, and Richie and Mike go on a vision quest together back to a prehistoric time and discover it is as old as the dinosaurs. They actually see the coming of it on a spaceship? The fifth big difference I noticed was in a chapter called Eddie's Bad Break, and in this chapter we see Eddie running into Henry and friends after the rock fight, and they're pretty pissed. They chase him, and once they manage to catch him, Henry manages to break his arm. 6. Another one of the missing. The death of Patrick Hockstetter. This was one of my favorite chapters that didn't make it into the movie, as bizarre as it is. Chapter 17 sees Beverly take the slingshot to the dump for some target practice. She hopes to run into the boys, but instead runs into Henry and crew. They have an extra member, who has been in the book off and on thus far, but was cut from the 90s TV miniseries adaptation. Patrick Hockstetter. They're all trying to light their farts on fire. Yeah, that's right. Henry and all his friends, including Patrick, are trying to light their farts on fire. Thankfully, though, they're distracted, which allows Beverly to hide and wait for them to leave. Victor and Belch do leave, but not before Henry gives them some shit for it. Henry and Patrick stay, continuing to light farts, but things get out of hand quickly when Patrick tries to give Henry a blowjob. Henry isn't having it and tells him he never wants to see him again, or else. Disappointed by that reaction, Patrick checks on an abandoned fridge in the dump where he likes to trap animals until they die. Yeah, this chapter just keeps getting weirder. And he checks on the last one to be attacked by some strange flying parasite creatures. Beverly, having left after him, knows that something is up and comes across the parasites, but can't find Patrick. She escapes, believing him dead. We actually get to see from his point of view being drug into its lair, and they later find his corpse. She brings the boys back to show them the parasites, but they're gone, replaced by a bloody message from Pennywise telling the kids to stop before he kills them. 7. As kids, they don't have the slingshot during the final fight with it. They're instead chased into the sewers by Henry and crew, who are possessed by it. They also don't have any lights, only a handful of matches, because Bev and Richie smoke cigarettes, remember? 8. Interlude 4. Here we see Mike interview an elderly man about a gruesome murder that happened in a full bar where everyone went on normally, knowing it was going on, but let it happen anyway. Definitely understandable as to why this didn't make it into the film version, but it serves as a short story which helps shows the extent to which people turned a blind eye to horrible things in Derry. 9. After the rendezvous at the library as adults, Bill walks Beverly back to their hotel, so they can have more flashbacks, one of Beverly running from her father, who is accusing her of being intimate with all the boys in her friend group, and once they get to their hotel, Bev decides to spend the night with Bill. Missing the messages and calls, her friend left her to watch out for her renegade husband. Of course, Bill and Bev get it on, which I'm torn about. On one hand, I could have gone without that, but on the other, I think it adds some moral ambiguity. I mean, with both of them being married and all, okay, maybe not so much Bev, since she should be filing for a divorce soon, but it symbolizes them coming back together in another one of the ways the circle is closing. 10. While the adult Henry Bowers still faces off against Mike, he does it at the library, and still has enough wind to catch that ride from the Dead Belch to the hotel where the others are staying. He receives a list from Pennywise, I mean it's signed by him at least, that has all the losers and their room numbers on it, so he decides to start with Eddie's room first. Eddie fights him and manages to kill him, but Eddie has his arm broken again. Once he calls the others, that's when they find out Mike is in the hospital. 11. Tom Rogan, Beverly's husband, becomes mind-controlled by it, and led down the same thought process to pick up where the now dead Henry Bowers left off. He captures Bill's wife Audra and takes her to its lair, where he dies at the sight of it in its truest form. 12. After they thought they'd finished it as kids in the sewers, they'd become lost and couldn't find their way out. Beverly thinks that it may still have some hold on them and must vanquish one of her last greatest fears, sex. So, to break its hold on them and bring the circle to a close, tighter than ever, she gets naked and lets the boys take turns doing her. Yeah, I'm not making that up. That really happens, and it's in like the last 200 or so pages of this like 1,400 page novel. I really could have gone without the 5-guy, 11-year-old gangbang of Beverly in the fucking sewers. Not only was it extreme, but it was kind of implausible. But I mean, I commend it at least for shocking me and making me think of fear in a different way. I mean, yeah, I totally get its symbolism and underlying meanings and nuances, but I still could have gone without that. This is the point where I feel like characterization is not good. This didn't really help me like anyone anymore. The 13th difference I noticed is in their final fight with it as adults, it's revealed that it is actually a female with eggs that could hatch, and Ben is the one who stays behind to stomp them out, doing so in the dark with a small reserve of matches. 14. As adults, Eddie pulls its battery acid trick again, but he gets too close to the spider form of it and gets his arm bitten off. He dies in Beverly's arms while the boys fight it in a telepathic battle on an odyssey of consciousness through a realm beyond reality referred to as the Macroverse. Yeah. 15. In the novel, in this spider final form, it can speak to them telepathically. Hence all the telepathic fighting and the cross-consciousness let me take you into the Deadlight scenes. It actually even cries out in loss when Ben stomps out its eggs. 16. When it appears as a giant spider at the end of the book, it explains that it isn't really what it looks like, but the closest thing to something their minds can understand. The fight is also more mental/spiritual, and when Bill looks into its spider eyes, he is sucked towards the Deadlights, which is on a journey of consciousness through planes separate from their reality. Bill actually catches a glimpse of its truest form and describes it as a creature that never ends, made of orange light. 17. In the film, they tried to make the final fight more climactic by giving them a slingshot, whereas in the book, they have no weapons in their final fight as adults. Though, in the book, we get those epic cross-reality telepathic encounters. In the film, they finish it by getting, I think, a shot in with a slingshot and then just kind of kick the shit out of it, which is a little anticlimactic. I mean, an ancient spider creature that's been feeding on this town for centuries, and a group of people could have just gone and, well, kicked the shit out of it. In the novel, as I mentioned, Eddie is killed and Beverly stays behind with him. Ben has to stomp out the eggs, leaving Richie and Bill to pursue the retreating it. They corner it in the sewers, and it tries to trick Bill but fails. Then it begs for its life. It eventually manages to knock Richie out, but Bill literally crushes its heart with his bare hands. So yeah, hands down, I think I like the ending better in the book. 18. When they entered its lair, both as kids and as adults, it was through a small door that had a symbol painted on it. They all saw a different symbol on the door, but when they left, after killing it as adults, the symbol was gone, implying that it is dead for good. 19. They are forced to leave Eddie's body behind, next to the tiny door in its lair, so that they can carry the now catatonic Audra instead, because she still has a pulse at least. The sewers are caving in from a cataclysmic storm that's flooded out Derry. It's worse than the storm of 58, and through some destruction to the sewer system from the storm is how they've managed to find their way out. And now, finally, the last difference, 20. Mike lets Bill stay at his place while he's in the hospital, and Bill tries to nurse Audra back to health. She's been to a hospital already. He's not having much luck. The epilogue, like in the movie, continues with the bike ride on Old Silver with Audra, where she comes back from being a vegetable. Here we also find out that Beverly and Ben have gone off to Nebraska as a couple, and Richie has gone back to his work as a radio personality. Although it's here that we now begin to see that since it's over again, they all have begun to forget, not only what happened, but little details about each other, which kind of makes me really sad, you guys. Well, those were the major differences I noticed in the later half of Stephen King's mammoth odyssey of horror. You can find a full list of the differences on my website linked in the description. Also, if you liked this video, drop me a sub because I plan to post a full novel review before the new film adaptation drops. Are you excited for the new film adaptation? Let me know in the comments down below. Catch you guys next time.